Hello, my name is Rachel Herrera with Kubit, and in this video, we're going to talk about what it takes to create a great prompt so that you can ask AI whatever question you'd like, specifically how to best structure questions when you're using our built-in Lumos AI tool within Kubit. So the first half of this video is going to be us just talking about prompting and what it means, and then the second half is actually getting into Kubit and showing a few demos. So first, let's just set our basics and make sure we all understand what exactly a prompt is when we say that. And it's really just the message or the question that you type to the AI, telling it what you want it to do. It's basically how you communicate with it. And we can't use, while we use the term natural language, there still needs to be some structure and some format to how you ask these questions to get the best possible answer. Think of it like you're giving assistant instructions to like a super smart person. But like I said before, the response that you get is only going to be as good as the question that you ask. Think of it like this way. If you're going out with friends and you want to go see a movie together, if you simply ask your friend, hey, do you want to go see a movie with me? It's really hard for them to just say yes, right? You need to clarify a few things. Which movie are you going to see? What theater? At what time and when? And with that context, your friend is going to probably be better able to tell you, yes, they can go, or no, they're going to stay home. So think of it in that way when you talk to AI. You need to give it this additional context so that it gets the proper response and, you can enjoy the show with your friend, or you can get the right report constructed in Kubit. Let's talk quickly about the ideal structure specifically for these kinds of questions. Now, I think there's a ton of great resources out there for just general prompt best practices depending on what you're wanting to get out of the agent. This is going to be more focused on reports and analytics because that is precisely what Lumos does. And the way I like to think about it is in this sort of Mad Libs format. I want to see a metric for some population of people, sessions, events, whatever. But I only want to look at a certain limit that I want to set, or maybe no limit at all, for a particular time period. So to put it another way, the question would maybe be phrased as, I want to see total number of purchases for active users, but only looking at US customers for the last month. This is going to ensure that I get all the proper context into my question, so the report that's created is going to be exactly what I need. So let's jump into Kubit and test out a few prompts so we can kind of see this in action. If you haven't gotten a chance to use Lumos yet, you should see it at the top of any report within Kubit. It's this little box here. If you don't see that, you probably see a little button that says Ask Lumos, and that's how you open the box. And now you're able to give it your prompt. Let's start with a pretty simple one and kind of say, hey, what is our top performing content? This sample data set is for streaming service, so think of like a Netflix, Roku, Hulu type deal. But my question is, what's our top performing content? Now, this is not a great prompt for several reasons. Some of the things that I just mentioned. There's no context about what does top performing mean? How do we measure as a business if something is top performing or not? Content, maybe I don't have to be specific there, but let's say I have movies and shows. I have VOD and on demand and live. All of that's going to be important to make sure that I'm getting the right response because the AI comes back and it says, okay, to determine it, we're going to generate a report and it's going to count the number of stream completed events. And it breaks it down by the show title. So that's great. It got that stream completed is relevant to some sort of performance metric, and it got that the show title is similar to content. However, this isn't correct because I don't measure performance based on just simply somebody completing something. I actually measure it based on total minutes watched. That's the true measurement of performance. So now I may think, okay, well, this AI doesn't understand me. It doesn't get me. I'm heartbroken. And I may even not understand how to get to that metric because it's a sum function at that point. So I can follow up my prompt and instead update it to be a more appropriate question, which is what content had the highest total minutes watched? And so now I'm getting more specific with my metric, highest total minutes watched. And then the content is like the thing I care about. And as you can see, our AI actually updated it to sum the minutes watched, continuing to break it down by show title. So this is actually exactly what I needed. So just being more specific about the thing that I care about, the metric, is helping me make better use of this AI. But now what we can see at the bottom is we're just looking at the last 7 days. I care more about the last 2 weeks because I want the swings of, the weekends, weekdays to factor into it. So further expanding on our prompt, we know it works. Now I can add over the last 2 weeks. And this is now going to give it even more context about the time frame that I care about. So as you can see, I'm like iterating on this question until I get exactly what I want versus fighting with a report. So I get the same sum, none of that changed, but as you can see, now it says the last 2 weeks. That's perfect. And also, if I'm comfortable doing it myself, I can just simply come in and change it. I'm just more showing you guys how to work through different prompts as you get used to this. But let's say the next layer of this question is, okay, well, I don't actually want to see this for every day. I want to see it week, like 1 week and then versus the next week. So aggregated to the week level. So I could even say that in my prompt. What content had the highest total minutes watched over the last 2 weeks by each week? And Lumos is going to be smart enough to know how to construct that query and give you that level of granularity that you're looking for. So just with a few prompt tweaks, I was able to get it to sum my total minutes watched, break it down by the show title for the last 2 weeks and weekly. And once I'm happy with this, and I could even execute this each time if I wanted to see the results. But now I just click execute and I get my results back from my cloud data warehouse and I can see what they mean. I could even go in and ask AI to explain these results to me to give me some more insight about what I'm seeing. But what this tells me is, Red List and Josh Ryan were our two most popular titles over the last 2 weeks by total minutes watched. Great. So let's reset this and maybe go to another type of report like a funnel to understand conversion. Maybe the question isn't simply did somebody convert, but like how long does it take them? So again, that's the metric that we're asking for. And so I can ask questions like this one: how long does it take a user to convert from trial to paid subscription? And I can be really specific about the metric I care about, which is how long does it take, or time to convert. Even though you're not using that exact terminology, Lumos is going to understand how to structure that report for you and then giving it the subsequent steps. I've seen it work really well if you do a step like this, like from one to another with a comma, if you've got several steps. And as you can see, it built my funnel, trial started to purchase subscription, and I can continue to iterate on this. For example, let's say I have an A/B test and I want to see the time to convert between the different variants. So I can tweak my prompt here and say, how long does it take a user to convert from trial to paid for my test 3, 4, 5 by each test group? So the 4 is going to be the filter, right? The limit that I'm applying to the results. I only want to see it for this audience, and I want to see the results grouped by test group. So if I execute that, now I should get the same funnel steps, but slightly different filters and breakdowns so that my results are more in line with what I expect. And so as you can see, I added a filter here for test ID 345, and the group breakdown is the group ID. So if I execute this, I should get a 2-step funnel for group ID A and group ID B for test 345, which is exactly what I get. So now I can see that group B completes this funnel in a median time of 14 minutes. Group A is a median time of 10 minutes. If my group B is like my treatment group, I can tell that this experiment is not going well. We are actually making it take longer for users to convert from trial to paid subscription, which is a problem. So going back to our slides here, just remember the structure of the prompts are going to be really important. This is also really useful for just like any AI tooling you're working in. And when we launch our full chat takeover full screen, which I can show you very quickly here, the same idea applies. being able to ask and answer those questions in that semi-structured format is going to just help make this much more useful. So I want to see metric for a segment of people, sessions, events, but only looking at some limit you want to apply to the data for a particular time period if you care. If not, Kubit will typically default to the last 7 days, which is usually good enough. Cool. So to wrap things up, let's talk about some best practices. As I mentioned, be specific and be clear. Instead of using superlatives or kind of vague language like what is our traffic, try how many active users do we have. Be specific about the metric that you want to see. Including the time and the filter context in your prompt, if it's important, is going to be really critical. Making sure that if you're looking at a specific period of time or you only want to see results for a single platform or experiment, make sure you add that in your prompt. And invest in your data model definitions. So this is probably something you're already hearing from our team as you get stood up on Lumos or you're interested in exploring Lumos. But having those event descriptions, those field descriptions are just going to make things so much more straightforward because the LLM reads those to know which items to pick in the report builder. Iterate with the follow-ups. So like I was showing you, ask your question, measure the response, and then iterate and continue to get to what you want. Ask the question and then maybe actually no, you know what, I want to break down by country or show me users that have a similar scenario. And then lastly, just as a reminder, we do let you create cohorts with natural language as well. For example, for the users who watched at least 10 minutes of comedy, what are the total viewing minutes for other shows last week? And it builds me not just the measure here of summing the total watch time, but also adds a cohort filter. So limiting to the group of users that watched at least 10 minutes of category equal to comedy. And then it's even restricting and excluding comedy from the results. So because in my prompt, I said for other shows, so other things other than comedy. So you can be prompting it to not only filter and limit your results by rows of data, but also the behavior of other users, which is pretty cool. That's the final bit here about the cohort creation. You can also build cohorts in our cohort builder right here using Lumos, or in, once it's released, our live chat feature, you can chat and create cohorts there as well, which is pretty cool. So I hope this video was useful. Get out there, happy prompting, and if you ever have any questions or anything, don't hesitate to reach out to the Kubit team. Thanks.